Welcome to the Legally Speaking podcast. I'm your host, Rob Hanna. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Sarah Ouis. Sarah is a French national working in the UK and is the founder of Law But How, a legal design and content agency. She is also employed in the legal tech space as a legal design manager at ContractPodAi, where, as she says in her own words, we'll be cross-collaborating with different functions to make legal stuff better. Sarah is also known as a legal blogger, and on her very own platform, Very Lawyer Problems, she shares plenty of legal-related problems, but in a fun and accessible way. Before this, Sarah previously worked as legal in-house counsel for Mdgroup, in which she advised on commercial-related matters. So a very big warm welcome, Sarah.
Hey, Rob. Thank you so much for having me.
Our absolute pleasure. And before we dive into all your amazing achievements and legal experiences to date, we must start with our customary opening question here on the Legally Speaking podcast, which is, on the scale of 1 to 10, 10 being very real, what would you rate the hit TV series Suits in terms of its reality?
Oh, my goodness. I would probably go for 2 or 3, especially because of my in-house legal background.
Yeah, I think that's a fair answer, 2 or 3. I was expecting you to definitely give it below 5. So we will move swiftly on. So let's start a little bit about you. So tell us a bit about your family background and upbringing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was born and raised in France, and I guess you can tell with my accent as well. I have a North African background, so my parents came from Algeria. So I like to say that I'm a pure product of 2 cultures and now 3, because I've been living in the UK for the past 7 years. So that's obviously born and raised in France, qualified, went to law school in France, qualified as a French lawyer, and then moved to the UK. So, and I'm also the eldest of an 8-children family.
Wow.
Fun fact.
1 of 8. Wow. Okay. What's the age difference between you and the youngest?
So there's 17 years.
Wow.
Difference.
There we go. But does everyone know you're the boss? Top of 8.
Yeah, they have to. I mean, I'm their wallet, so...
Good stuff. And as I mentioned in the introduction, you previously worked as in-house legal counsel and moved over to the UK to do this. So tell us a bit about what this was like, and was that an easy thing for you to do?
Wow. Okay, so... I mean, I've had challenges, but I guess as any junior lawyers, trying to get into the legal market, I couldn't find a job in France. So I had to move to the UK, and that's pretty much where I started my career. I was unemployed for like a good year and a half. I had to come to the UK for initially what was meant to be an internship, and ended up being a scam. But I decided to stay regardless because I wanted to improve my English. So my first, trip to the UK was back in 2015. So graduated in 2014, came to the UK in 2015 for a legal internship that didn't exist. worked my way in a coffee shop to learn the language, went back to Paris, and started off, my legal experience in-house over there. But it was only 6 months contract, and then back to an employment again. And I went back to the UK, and that's when I guess the London finally ended up opening some doors in the legal market. And I worked at Smart Focus for a year and a half. So in the tech industry, I was part of a legal team. And then, so I stayed there a year and a half. And then I went to Mdgroup in 2017 as a sole counsel. And that's where I have pretty much, it was a scale-up environment. So I had to be, the jack of all trades and most of the time master of none. And I had to hire people. And, I've been through, what it is like to be sole counsel, but also, the head of a department that is growing rapidly and has to keep up with the business.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I love everything that you do and following your journey. And you mentioned challenges. So I want to dive a bit deeper on that. What has been the most challenging thing in your legal career to date, you would have said?
Oh wow! So if I look back at my in-house legal career, I think that my most challenging experience was definitely at MD because I was still fairly junior. So I was 2 years PQE when I got the job, and I was kind of thrown in the deep end. I mean, I was quite fortunate that the company gave me a chance because I was fairly junior, but I don't know. I guess they maybe saw some potential that I didn't saw at the time. I didn't see at the time, and having to keep up with a company that is growing massively and rapidly at the same time, so you have to get the day-to-day job done. You also have to kind of think ahead and think about the future. And when you start hiring, you also have to manage people, but also empower them to, to get on with things. You also have to, as you scale, think differently about the way the legal department should be run in order to keep on meeting the demands at no extra resources as well. So I think having to figure it out all by myself was definitely the most challenging part of my in-house legal role at MD. But equally, I think it has given me a very good picture of what it was like to be an in-house lawyer, both as a team member in a normal, I would say, legal department at Smart Focus, but also being a sole counsel and then, becoming the head of a four-team legal team as well. So it was great overall.
Yeah, and it's inspiring as well. And, it's amazing what you have achieved and what you've done. And it's great that you can articulate those challenges and sort of how you've got through them as well. And you recently, moved from your in-house role to focus on other projects. So what was the reason for that decision?
That's a great question, Rob. So I think probably because of the type of experiences that I've had in-house, I kind of felt that I have seen a lot. I mean, obviously, there is always more that you can learn and areas where you can develop as an in-house lawyer. But I think I had seen quite a wide spectrum of things. And when I started to create content on social media in 2018, it kind of opened up a new avenue for me without even realizing. Initially, I just wanted to share some tips and career tips because I struggled to find a job. I was a baby lawyer and I had no network. I had nothing. But when doing that, I kind of understood the power of social media and content to build relationships, to grow a network. And I used that power then to convey more legal related thoughts. And that's where obviously, all of my legal design work has come up. And that's where I then started to do TikTok videos, etc., etc. And I think what I've realized during this exercise is that I'm probably more passionate by solving problems in the legal industry as opposed to practicing the law itself. And that's pretty much what has triggered, my new journey, both for Law But How, but also working in legal tech, because they both have something in common, which is the ability to make things better in the legal space, and both through, technology or, design. And I think that's really what I've discovered I was passionate about.
Yeah, and I mean, definitely, I love all of your social media content and what you do on TikTok, and your videos are brilliant. You mentioned legal design. Just want to focus a little bit more on that. Perhaps for those less familiar, what actually is legal design in your words?
So to me, it is a mindset. It is a framework that supports a much more user-centric way of delivering legal services, designing legal products, designing processes, and also conveying legal information. So that's kind of a mindset where you think about the end user, you think about, okay, who am I, solving a problem for? Who are my end users, and you go backwards. Okay, I'm talking to entrepreneurs, I'm talking to business teams, I am talking to, the general public. They don't have a legal background, etc., etc. So what are the things that I can do to facilitate whatever I deliver for them in order to meet them where they are? So that's very much what legal design is for me. I am focused on information design. I love the idea of simplifying legal, and not only simplifying legal information, but also make it much more fun and accessible and innovative. And that's probably a reflection of my personality in the industry. I'm definitely not traditional. But I guess that's probably one of the frustrations I had in law school. That's just boring. Why are we using Latin elocution? And, why is everything we do so dull and long-winded? Is there any better way we can do this?
And I love that. I love that core value about you in terms of being different. It's something that I live and breathe by. And, who would have thought legal recruiters were doing legal podcasts? But it's all about that. And I think, you embrace that so well. And, the content you produce, particularly through making it fun, informative, is just fantastic. And as we mentioned earlier, we both touched on, you are the proud founder of Law But How. Tell us a bit more about the company.
So Law But How is very much... I think it's the business form of what I produce on social media. It's kind of, I have a genuine passion for making legal information more engaging and user-friendly, and even more than that, entertaining. And I think, so Law But How very much aims at, conveying law, but differently, how can you do things in such a way that is, that's going to, I guess, impacts the end user, and you don't want them to kind of look at a legal document and be like, oh, what now? And you really want them to engage with it. And one way of doing that is by revisiting the information itself and revisiting the experience. And that's really what I do with Law But How. I revisit legal training, legal materials, and I give them like a completely new look, really. So that's pretty much how I would describe it. Yeah, I transform the experience through information design and I guess, my approach on social media content as well.
And you've done some really good examples of this. So if I say Domino's Pizza, can you tell us what this is all about?
So I wanted to, I love using concrete examples to showcase what I mean by legal design. And one of the things that I've done was with the brand Domino's. So I went on their website and I was like, it is such an iconic brand and these guys are selling pizzas. So what can we do on their privacy policy to make it not only, more engaging, but also leverage what they're all about, pizzas and also their branding. So their colors and all of that. And so I've took it and I took some part of the privacy policy and I've made it as a pizza that has various toppings. So if you look at my designs, you actually have a pizza that is a privacy policy or a privacy policy that is a pizza with various toppings. And the toppings do represent some sections of the privacy policy. So the data retention, so how long they will be keeping the data for, what is their legal reason for using the data and all of that. So each section do represent a topping. So...
I love it. I think it's one of the best piece of edutainment, if you like, in terms of entertaining but educational content. And it was just brilliant. And now, time for a short quiz. Can you guess how many of your prospective clients now expect to work with you online? If you guessed almost 4 out of 5, or 79%, you got it right. Want to learn more about where the future of the legal profession is headed? Then leading practice management software provider Clio has just released a resource I think you're all going to love. In their 2021 Legal Trends Report, they compiled data from tens of thousands of legal professionals to chart the major upcoming trends for law firms. The annual Legal Trends Report is released every October, and you can get your copy for free at clio.com/legal trends. That's CLIO.com/legal trends. Now back to the show. Sticking with the world of entrepreneurship, I can tell it was always perhaps in your blood from the way you've just sort of communicated your story and, what you've been up to. But what really inspired you to start your own company?
It definitely wasn't natural because I was doing it out of passion for the discipline, really. You can't be such a nerd and spend so many hours of your life, designing the pizzas and and sanitizers and all sorts of things, to convey legal information without being like passionate about it, right? So I never really had envisaged to start my own journey, but I think with entrepreneurship, but when I saw the reaction of the legal community and when I saw, the ever-growing interest, for the discipline and in-house lawyers or even lawyers in private practice being either interested in learning how to do it themselves or, or actually reaching out to me and be like, okay, I want to revisit my policies internally. I want to revisit my contracts or whatever. Then I thought, if there's a need, there's a potential business opportunity right in front of you. And it turns out that you love what you're doing as well. So how about, coming up with an offering and see if people buy. And I was very surprised that, people reach out to me all the time.
Yeah, and that segues very nicely, actually, because, what would your advice be to any of our listeners who are interested in starting up their own company?
I would say that, try to monetize something that you genuinely care about, that you are genuinely passionate about. And if you find yourself in a situation a bit like me where, you just can't stop, you feel that, that's just something that you could do all day long, then obviously you have to make sure that there is a market for it. But sometimes you have to create it as well. So try to think of ways where you could monetize either your knowledge, your expertise. Think about online courses. There are various ways you can monetize your insights and go for it. And I think entrepreneurship is also about action and iteration. Certain things will work, certain things won't work at all. For whatever reason, the market decides. But there is really no harm in just, get started. If you have something in your gut that says go for it and try something, then definitely pursue that passion or that path, because if anything, you will learn from it.
And I love that. And it's such great advice. Firstly, you're saying just start. And I think, so many people have experienced overwhelm with an idea or, they just don't take action and start. Perfect inaction is better than, imperfect no action. So strongly encourage that. And you're also talking a lot about what you're passionate about in terms of focusing. And there's the famous Bruce Lee quote, I do not fear the man who's practiced 10,000 kicks. I fear the man who's practiced the same kick 10,000 times. And that's really, really important when it comes to focusing and doubling down what you're passionate about and identifying that solution and what you're offering. And it's very crystal clear what your business does. And it's fun, it's entertaining, and it's definitely one for the future. And I'm super excited to see where Law But How goes. And on that note, you also get yourself out there. You run lots of webinars, and you recently run one, I believe, on how to write better legal content. Can you tell our listeners more about these and how they can get involved if they're interested?
Yeah, absolutely. I love content because that's very much what has been fueling my legal career to date, especially the last few years. It got me to create Law But How, and it got me a job in legal tech at ContractPodAi as well. And my manager offered me the job because he was following what I was doing on social media. So I'm a true believer of content creation, whether, to grow a business, to develop your career, to grow your network. It only has benefits, and all it takes really is to start. And I really encourage legal professionals to really put themselves out there and to share valuable content. So irrespective of the medium, it could be a podcast, it could be visual content, it could be blog posts or articles. It doesn't really matter, but nobody's going to know who you are, if you don't make yourself visible. And content is a great way of achieving that. And with social media, you can reach thousands of views instantly. No physical event will ever allow you to do that. So I would definitely encourage, anybody who obviously wants to know more about how to create legal content to check this webinar, obviously. And generally speaking, I guess, follow the legal content creators, a bit like yourself, Rob. The power of content yourself, and the amazing podcast that you're running is a primary example of that. And I think it's time for, legal professionals to be more than legal professionals.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. And thank you for your kind words. But we need wonderful guests like you to educate and entertain our audience and listeners. So thank you. And, you recently completed your career shift by joining ContractPodAi. Have you always been interested in legal tech?
So I think the short answer is no.
Okay.
But purely because legal tech is quite new. So I didn't come out of law school in 2014 thinking, I'm interested in legal tech. I mean, legal tech was not a thing in 2014. So it's a fairly new thing in the market. However, what I was interested in when I was working at MD is, okay, how can I, scale? How can I scale the activities of my legal departments without additional resources? And that's really where I started to think about processes, but also technology. What are the tools that I can use, that will improve the way we do things or remove, the mundane tasks and the admin tasks that we get buried with, right? So I think that's really where I started to have a greater interest in technology in general. And then I came across legal tech perhaps, 2 years ago, and I started to, slowly getting into, okay, what are the products out there and what problems are they solving? But I think what I love about technology or legal tech now, after a couple of years of realizations is that it can really solve a problem that in-house lawyers or lawyers in general face. So I think I'm maybe more passionate about the outcome that legal tech is offering as opposed to, the tool itself. I'm not a tech nerd.
But I love the fact that, you're focused on, solutions and helping and providing something valuable that's going to have a real lasting impact on, the legal community. And I think that's great. And, we've talked on this throughout your episode, but you are known for fun ways of legal blogging and creating legal content on Instagram, TikTok. You've got your infamous eyebrow game, for example, on some of your videos, which is brilliant. If people haven't checked it out, please do go and check it out on TikTok. But what inspired you to begin doing this, and tell our listeners about, a bit more about some of that content and how you come up with your own ideas?
So I think my journey to content creation, initially I shared career insights. And I think and then I moved to legal design, TikTok videos, and I guess my content will keep on evolving, as I embrace legal technology as well. The common denominator was to help people. I think I had a genuine desire to kind of, help people in the legal industry, whether it was to find a job or whether it was to, navigate their in-house legal life through the TikTok videos, or whether it was through, inspiring in-house lawyers or lawyers in general to come up with more innovative ways of conveying information in a creative manner. So I think I always wanted to kind of help people, inspire, and drive the change forward as well. I think it was also frustration. I was kind of frustrated with, like the black box or the cost center label. I didn't go to law school to be labeled as a cost center for an organization. When you go to law school, you want to solve problems, you want to help a business doing business, but I think it's important for in-house lawyers, or because that's my background, or even lawyers in general, to understand the power that they've got and to communicate about the things that they can do with this power. So, I guess that's probably what got me started, willingness to help, a bit of frustration as well, and having my own voice in the industry, and drive the change forward.
That's it. All about driving the change. And you definitely are a pioneer for change. And, you are also a big user of LinkedIn, and your profile is particularly honest and open, about your experiences and career history. What was your decision behind doing that?
I think it's the same decision on my even social media contents, generally speaking. I'm a big believer of being transparent and authentic, whether through your content or through your, profile on LinkedIn. And I just wanted to show to people that, look, my career has never been, an easy ride, and I wasn't born with a lot of privileges. I come from a working class background. I'm now in the UK. I'm not a native English speaker, and it comes with its own challenges as well. And same for my career. The market wasn't waiting for me when I graduated from law school. And I think all of those things are important because these experiences in life really make you who you are as an individual. And I think I just want to normalize the conversation that it's okay to struggle. It's okay to have challenges. And these setbacks shouldn't stop you from, believing the process and aspiring to have a very successful career. So that's really the message behind it.
Love that. Love those words. And before we look to wrap up, what advice would you give to people who are looking to get more educated on legal tech, legal design? Where would you point them in, which directions, and how can they get more informed?
You probably know the answer, social media. Social media, follow the legal content creators. There are tons of them, a ton. I think we will see more and more of them coming up as time passes by. But I think social media is a great mine of knowledge, not only to learn about legal tech, legal design, but also, follow the conversations and see what's going on in the industry. Network with people as well. People are a great source of knowledge. And something else I would say is, don't limit yourself to legal related talks and topics. I've learned the power, I think I've understood the power of content through Gary Vee, that you and I are both following on social media, and he's in the digital marketing field. So I think we can learn a lot from people outside of our discipline as well. And I think it's important to keep an open mind when it comes to developing knowledge, because we can learn from anywhere and anyone, really.
So true. Always be open to learning. Absolutely love that. Well, Sarah, you would have inspired a lot of people, a lot of our listeners with your episode today. And if people want to get in touch with you about anything we've discussed today, what's the best way for them to do that? Feel free to shout out any web links or social media handles, and we'll also share them with this episode for you as well.
Oh, thank you so much, Rob. So people can reach out to me on LinkedIn, Sarah Ouis, on Instagram at Very Lawyer Problems, and on Twitter at Law But How.
There we go. There we have it. Well, thanks an absolute million, Sarah, for coming on the show. It's been an absolute pleasure having you. Loved every minute of it. Wishing you lots of continued success with your entrepreneurial pursuits, your career, and everything else on the horizons. But from all of us on the Legally Speaking podcast, over and out. This week's review comes from Angeli Menon. 5 stars. Great podcast. Every episode's managed to be informative and engaging. Keep up the great work. Angeli, thank you so much from all of us on the Legally Speaking podcast for your super kind words and encouragement. Thanks a million.